Before their rebellion, Lucifer, Beelzebub, Azazel, Leviathan, and Samael were among the highest-ranking celestial beings in heaven. Each angel had a distinct purpose within the divine hierarchy, serving the will of God and maintaining cosmic balance. According to Christian and Jewish traditions, angels were created as divine messengers and warriors, with specific roles assigned to each. The Bible and other apocryphal texts describe the celestial hierarchy in various ways, but a common understanding places angels in three main spheres. At the top were the seraphim, the closest to God, followed by the cherubim and the thrones, who guarded divine wisdom and justice. Below them were the dominions, virtues, and powers, responsible for governance and miracles. Finally, the principalities, archangels, and angels acted as intermediaries between heaven and earth. Among these ranks, 5 angels stood out for their immense power and influence, each given a crucial role in the divine order. Their brilliance, however, would ultimately lead to their downfall. Lucifer, whose name means light-bringer, was the most magnificent of all the angels. He belonged to the seraphim, the highest order of angels, who stood before the throne of God, constantly praising him with 6 wings of fire. His beauty was unparalleled, his voice like a celestial chorus, and his authority extended over countless legions of angels. Lucifer's primary role was to lead worship in heaven, directing all creation in adoration of God. Some theologians associate him with Ezekiel's description of the anointed cherub, Ezekiel 28:12-17, emphasizing his wisdom and perfect form. His radiance shone brighter than any other celestial being, earning him the title Morning Star, Isaiah 14:12. His unparalleled gifts made him the most beloved among the angels, yet also the most vulnerable to pride. As he gazed upon his own brilliance, the seeds of ambition and rebellion began to take root. Beelzebub, whose name means Lord of the Flies, was once a powerful dominion, responsible for overseeing the celestial order and harmony of heaven. In his prime, he ensured that divine laws were carried out among the angelic hosts. Unlike Lucifer, whose role was to lead worship, Beelzebub's authority was administrative, akin to a celestial steward. His wisdom was vast, and his ability to organize and command was second only to the archangels. The Book of Enoch suggests that certain high-ranking angels acted as watchers over creation, and Beelzebub may have been one of these divine overseers. Though he was not as radiant as Lucifer, his intelligence and leadership were unmatched. He was known for his meticulous nature, ensuring that every angelic duty was performed in perfect alignment with divine will. However, when Lucifer began to question God's absolute rule, Beelzebub's calculating mind entertained the possibility of change. Azazel was one of heaven's greatest warriors, a virtue responsible for teaching strength and courage to the angelic hosts. Described in apocryphal texts like the Book of Enoch, Azazel was known for bestowing knowledge of warfare, metalworking, and strategy upon both angels and, later, humanity. His golden armor shimmered like the sun, and his sword cut through darkness itself. He stood alongside the archangels Michael and Gabriel in battles against chaos and disorder. His role was crucial in protecting the divine realm from external threats. Though devoted to his duty, Azazel harbored a fascination with power and knowledge. The more he learned, the more he sought, and his hunger for understanding grew into a desire for independence. When Lucifer whispered of a new order, Azazel's warrior heart was stirred, and he listened. Unlike the other angels, Leviathan had a unique position in the celestial hierarchy. Some traditions describe him as a cherub, while others believe he was a celestial beast created to guard the mysteries of the deep. His name appears in the book of Job, Job 41, as a monstrous sea creature. But before his fall, Leviathan was a divine protector of the cosmic waters. In heaven, he was not a being of destruction, but of balance. His coiled form represented the endless cycle of creation and renewal, and his presence ensured that the primordial seas remained in harmony with divine order. However, his power was vast, and he saw himself as untouchable. When whispers of rebellion reached him, he did not reject them outright. Instead, he contemplated whether the old order should be challenged. Samael was one of the most feared and revered angels in heaven. As the angel of death, he carried out divine justice, ensuring that the wicked were punished and the righteous rewarded. Unlike the other fallen angels, Samael's role remained ambiguous even after the rebellion. Some traditions view him as a fallen angel, while others see him as still serving God's will. His presence was chilling yet necessary. He was neither cruel nor merciful, but simply the executioner of divine law. With his dark robes and piercing gaze, he moved silently through the celestial realm, delivering the final decree upon those who strayed from righteousness. Yet even he was not immune to doubt. As Lucifer's influence spread, Samael pondered the meaning of justice. Was it truly divine, or merely dictated by those in power? This internal conflict would ultimately shape his decision in the rebellion to come. These 5 angels, once brilliant and revered, stood at the pinnacle of heaven's order. Each played a vital role in maintaining balance, yet each harbored a seed of doubt, ambition, or curiosity. Their divine duties were not merely functions, they were part of their very essence. Lucifer's worship, Beelzebub's order, Azazel's strength, Leviathan's guardianship, and Samael's justice defined who they were. But when the idea of rebellion was introduced, their very nature was challenged. This was not merely a war of power, it was a war of ideology. The question that burned in their minds was simple yet dangerous. Was heaven truly unchangeable? Doubt had taken root in the hearts of Lucifer, Beelzebub, Azazel, Leviathan, and Samael. Though each had served their divine purpose with loyalty, a lingering question burned in their minds. Was the order of heaven truly unchangeable? Lucifer was the first to openly voice his defiance. Standing before the other angels, he questioned the divine hierarchy. Why should they, the most powerful of all celestial beings, bow eternally before a God who ruled without opposition? Should not the greatest among them share in divinity? His words, spoken with the eloquence of heaven's greatest order, resonated deeply. Beelzebub, ever the strategist, saw the potential for a new order, one where he could rule alongside Lucifer. Azazel, warrior and teacher, envisioned a world where strength, not blind obedience, determined destiny. Leviathan, bound by duty to the seas, longed for freedom from his eternal vigil. Samael, the enforcer of divine justice, questioned whether justice itself was a construct of power rather than truth. Their whispered conversations spread like wildfire through the celestial realm. Some angels listened in secret, others openly rejected the idea, but none could ignore the shift in the air. The harmony of heaven was breaking. Not all were swayed by Lucifer's vision. The archangel Michael, the great commander of heaven's armies, was the first to stand against him. A warrior without equal, Michael's loyalty to God was unshaken. He gathered the legions of angels still faithful to the divine order and prepared for battle. "Who is like God?" he thundered, his sword igniting with divine fire. The name Michael itself meant just that, a challenge to Lucifer's claim of divinity. Gabriel, the messenger of God, warned the rebels that their path would lead only to destruction. Raphael, the healer, mourned the loss of his once brothers. Uriel, the keeper of wisdom, stood firm against deception. Despite their warnings, Lucifer and his followers did not turn back. The heavens trembled as the first battle of eternity began. The war that followed was unlike any conflict before or since. Heaven, once a realm of perfect harmony, became a battlefield of unimaginable scale. Lucifer led his legions with fiery brilliance, his once glorious wings now darkened by his own ambition. Beelzebub, the master of strategy, coordinated their movements, turning chaos into calculated strikes. Azazel, clad in his golden armor, led the charge with his mighty sword, clashing against Michael in battle after battle. Leviathan, no longer a passive guardian, became a storm of destruction, his massive form shaking the very foundations of the celestial realm. Samael, torn between loyalty and rebellion, fought with reluctance, his blades striking with hesitation. The armies of heaven met them with equal force. Michael and his warriors, empowered by divine will, pushed back against the rebels. Gabriel's trumpet sounded, shaking the firmaments. Raphael's healing light shielded the wounded. The thrones, with their burning wheels, rolled through the battlefield, their voices declaring divine judgment. The war raged for what felt like an eternity, but heaven was not a place meant for war. The very nature of the celestial realm rejected rebellion, and slowly the rebels began to falter. In the final confrontation, Michael faced Lucifer once more. Their swords clashed, sending waves of fire and light across the heavens. "You were the brightest of us all," Michael declared, sadness in his voice. "But even the brightest star cannot outshine the one who made it." With one final strike, Michael's blade shattered Lucifer's defenses. The morning star, once the greatest of all angels, fell. One by one, the rebellious angels plummeted from heaven. Beelzebub's once proud form twisted into something monstrous. Azazel's golden armor turned to rusted chains. Leviathan, screaming in fury, was cast into the depths of the abyss. Samael, shrouded in shadow, disappeared into the void. They fell for what felt like an eternity, their cries echoing across creation. Heaven sealed itself from them, and the light of the divine was forever lost to them. With the rebels cast down, peace was restored in heaven. Michael and his legions stood victorious, though their hearts were heavy. No angel rejoiced in the fall of their brethren. Lucifer and his followers landed in a realm of fire and darkness, a prison of their own making. What was once divine became damned. Thus ended the first rebellion, and thus began a new war, one that would stretch across time itself, the battle for the souls of men. As Lucifer and his fallen brethren plunged through the void, the light of heaven vanished behind them. They fell through realms unknown, their divine essence unraveling with each passing moment. The further they descended, the more their once glorious forms twisted, corrupted by their own rebellion. When they struck the bottom of the abyss, a new realm was born. Hell. It was not created by God, nor was it part of the original order of existence. It was a place shaped by the fallen themselves, formed from their pain, fury, and defiance. Lucifer rose first. His once radiant wings, now tattered and burned, stretched behind him. His golden glow had faded into a smoldering red, and his once beautiful face was now sharp with anger and sorrow. He looked around at his new domain, a land of fire, desolation, and eternal suffering. The fallen angels rose beside him, each transformed by their own sins. Beelzebub, once the master of order, had become a monstrous entity covered in swarming flies, his form bloated and diseased. Azazel, the warrior, had been shackled in chains, his once glorious armor now rusted and broken. Leviathan, who had guarded the mysteries of the sea, had mutated into a nightmarish serpent, his body coiling through the burning lakes. Samael, once the hand of divine justice, had become the angel of death, his form cloaked in eternal shadow. The light of heaven was lost to them forever. They were no longer angels. They were demons. Lucifer, now fully embracing his new identity as Satan, climbed to the highest peak of hell and proclaimed himself ruler. His voice, once the most beautiful in heaven, now thundered with fury. "This realm is ours. We may have been cast from heaven, but we will build a kingdom to rival it. We shall reign not as servants, but as gods of our own making." The fallen roared in agreement. Beelzebub, his hunger for power growing, became hell's prince, commanding the legions of lesser demons. Azazel, still a warrior at heart, became the master of forbidden knowledge, teaching mankind the arts of war and corruption. Leviathan slithered into the depths, becoming the great beast of chaos. Samael, neither fully loyal to Lucifer nor heaven, wandered the edges of existence, the bringer of death and judgment. From this throne of fire and torment, Satan plotted his ultimate revenge. He could no longer challenge heaven directly, but there was another way to strike back: mankind. When God created the world and placed humanity upon it, the fallen watched with envious eyes. Lucifer, now Satan, saw an opportunity. If he could not defeat heaven, he would steal the souls of God's beloved creation. He would turn man against his creator and drag them into the fires of damnation. The first test came in the Garden of Eden. Taking the form of a serpent, Satan whispered to Eve, tempting her to defy God's command. With a single bite of forbidden fruit, humanity's innocence was shattered. Sin entered the world, and Satan had won his first victory. From that moment, the fallen worked tirelessly to corrupt mankind. Beelzebub spread gluttony, greed, and indulgence. Azazel taught men the secrets of war, weapons, and forbidden magic. Leviathan unleashed chaos upon the seas, causing storms and destruction. Samael became the specter of death, ensuring that no mortal could escape the fate of the grave. Heaven watched in sorrow, but free will had been given to mankind. They could choose between the light and the darkness, and the fallen would ensure that darkness remained ever tempting. But all was not lost. Even as Satan and his legions worked to corrupt the world, a prophecy was spoken, one that struck fear into the heart of hell itself. A day would come when a Savior would rise, a child born of both heaven and earth. He would crush the serpent's head, break the chains of sin, and open the gates of salvation for mankind. The fallen trembled at this prophecy. They knew their time was limited. A war was coming, and in the end, even hell itself would fall. From the moment of their fall, the war between heaven and hell never ceased. It was not fought with swords and spears, but with souls, choices, and destinies. The battlefield was earth, and humanity was the prize. Angels and demons moved unseen, whispering into the minds of kings, warriors, and prophets. The fallen sought to twist the hearts of men, leading them into sin, while the loyal angels worked to protect, guide, and inspire those who sought righteousness. Lucifer, now Satan, the adversary, set himself against God's plan. He wove lies into the hearts of men, raising empires of tyranny, bloodshed, and deception. He promised power, knowledge, and pleasure to those who would forsake their Creator. The archangels, led by Michael, stood as defenders of the faithful. Time and again, Michael led the armies of heaven against the forces of darkness, ensuring that Satan's dominion would never be absolute. Beelzebub, now the prince of demons, whispered gluttony, greed, and indulgence into the hearts of rulers, turning kingdoms into dens of corruption. Azazel, the fallen warrior, taught men to craft weapons, igniting endless wars. Leviathan, the serpent of the seas, unleashed chaos upon the waters, bringing shipwrecks and destruction. Samael, the angel of death, watched over the dying, ensuring that no soul could escape the judgment that awaited them. But no matter how hard the fallen fought, the forces of heaven never wavered. The war reached its turning point when the long-awaited Messiah was born. The fallen trembled as they saw prophecy unfold. Jesus Christ, both God and man, walked the earth, teaching truth, healing the sick, and casting out demons. The forces of hell were powerless against him. Wherever he went, their influence crumbled. Satan, desperate to stop him, tried 3 temptations in the wilderness, offering power, dominion, and even the kingdoms of the world. But Christ refused them all. Then came the crucifixion. The fallen rejoiced, believing they had won, but they did not understand the divine plan. In his death, Jesus shattered the chains of sin, and when he rose from the grave, he broke the power of death itself. The gates of hell trembled. The fallen knew that their time was running out. Though the battle was lost, the war was not over. The fallen retreated, continuing to corrupt mankind. But they knew that a final reckoning was coming. The book of Revelation speaks of the last war, the day when Michael and the heavenly hosts will rise against Satan and his legions for the final battle. The armies of heaven and hell will clash, and the fallen will face their ultimate fate. Lucifer, Beelzebub, Azazel, Leviathan, and Samael will be cast into the lake of fire, their rebellion ending in eternal punishment. And at last, heaven will be victorious. The story of the fallen angels is not just one of rebellion and damnation. It is a warning. No matter how high one may rise, pride leads to ruin. No matter how powerful one may be, defiance against the Creator leads to destruction. But it is also a story of redemption. Though the fallen are beyond saving, mankind is not. Every soul has a choice: to follow the fallen into darkness or to seek the light of heaven. And in the end, light will always triumph over darkness.